Today we're going to talk about integers and absolute value. So some of this should be a review from last year, so it should be fairly easy. So an integer is any number positive or negative. A positive integer is a number that's greater than 0. A negative one is one that's less than 0. And the absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. So again, our negative integers are to the left of 0, our positive are to the right of 0. When we graph these, okay, to graph an integer on a number line, you draw a dot on the line. Okay? So some people like to put them above, some people like to put them below, some people like to just use tick marks. You need to put a dot on the line. And your dot needs to be large enough so I can tell it's a dot. If you just do a tiny little dot and I can't tell it's a dot, you're not going to get points. It needs to be obviously a dot and it needs to be on the line. I'm going to look to see if you guys can follow instructions on this lesson. So copy this down. Write an integer for each situation. An average temperature of 5 degrees below normal. Okay, so an integer means we're just going to write a number. So our number is 5 degrees below normal. Below is being one of our keywords. So we're going to write this as negative 5. Okay, so 5 degrees below normal is going to be negative 5. So that's all we do. That's our answer for that one. So copy this one down. An average rainfall of 5 inches above normal. And our key here that tells us what's positive or negative is above. And so we can write this as just 5, or we could write it as plus 5. Okay, so 5 above. Either one of these works. It's just personal preference. Okay, so take a moment to do these two. Copy them down and solve them. 6 degrees above normal and 2 inches below normal. Okay, so let's go over these. 6 degrees above normal is just 6. Or you could put plus 6. 2 inches below normal, below being our key word again, is going to be negative 2. Now we're going to talk about graphing. So graph the set of integers, 4, negative 6, 0 on the number line. So when you graph these, create our number line. What's the smallest number in this number set? Our smallest number is negative 6. So that's where we're going to start. And then I'm going to go up by ones until we reach our largest number. And our largest number is 4. Okay, so there's my number line. Your number lines are never going to be really big. I'm not going to give you large number lines. So I want to see you go by ones, and from the smallest number to the largest number is as far as you need to go. And that way I can see that you're numbering them correctly. So now I'm going to put a dot at 4. Remember, my dot's going to be large enough so I can tell it's a dot. Negative 6. And 0. Be careful with these. Make sure you put your dots in the correct spot and that you don't accidentally skip one. Sometimes you'll have more than 3 numbers in it, and it's easy to skip them sometimes. Make sure you kind of go in order, make sure you've got them all. So that's what your number line should look like. So that should be pretty easy. So do the same thing for these two. Go ahead and pause it so you have time to work them out. Okay, for C, my smallest number is -7. So I'm going to number it from -7 up to 8. And now I'm going to put my dots. So I need a dot at -2. Again, my dot's going to be large enough so I can tell it's a dot. A dot at +8. And a dot at -7. So there's that number line. Now for D, my smallest number is -4. And my largest is 10. So I'll put a dot at -4, a dot at 10, a dot at -3, and a dot at +7. That's what that number line should look like. So if you got them right, good job. If you got them wrong, check to see what it is that you got wrong. Okay, now we're going to talk about absolute values. So absolute value is the distance between the number and 0. So if we look, the absolute value of -5 is 5, because -5 is 5 units from 0. The absolute value of +5 is 5, because again, it's 5 units from 0. Your absolute values will always be positive. Remember that, they will always be positive. So copy this down. Evaluate each expression. We have the absolute value of -4. Okay, so how far away is -4 from 0? It's 4 units. So my absolute value of -4 is 4. Again, it's always the number but positive. Now we have an expression. The absolute value of -5 minus the absolute value of 2. So we're going to find our absolute values first. The absolute value of -5 is 5. Minus, our minus just carries down. The absolute value of 2 is 2. What's 5 minus 2? 3. So that's their answer. The absolute value of -5 minus the absolute value of 2 is 3. For this previous one, there's no work to show. You just write what your absolute value is. For this one, I need to see what your absolute values are before you solve it. So this is your work. So I need to see this before you get your answer. So try these 3 on your own. Okay, pause this if you need more time to solve it. So the absolute value of 8 is 8. It's always positive, so it stays the same. So it's going to be 2 plus the absolute value of -3 is 3. So 2 plus 3 is 5. And the absolute value of -6 minus 5, so that's me, absolute value of -6 is 6. 6 minus 5 is 1. So check your answers. Okay, copy this one down. Nick climbs 30 feet up a rock wall and then climbs 22 feet down to a landing area. The number of feet Nick climbs can be represented using the expression the absolute value of 30 plus the absolute value of -22. How many feet does Nick climb? So for this one, they give us the expression. Most of the time, they're not going to. So I want to make sure that you know how to write these expressions as well. Okay, so climbs 30 feet up. So what integer do I use for going 30 feet up? The positive 30. Okay. And I'm going to use my absolute values plus climbs 22 feet down. What integer is 22 feet down? That's negative 22. And again, I'm going to use my absolute values. Here's why I use absolute values. So, climbs 30 feet up, and then 22 feet down. They want to know how many feet total does he climb. They want to know the total amount. So that's why we have to add the absolute value going up plus the absolute value going down to find the total amount. So my absolute value of 30 is 30, plus my absolute value of negative 22 is 22. So 30 plus 22. That's 52. So how many feet does Nick climb? He climbs 52 feet. Okay, so that's it for this lesson. If you have any questions, please let me know.